Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to one more session of Coding Night in a Halloween night. We have like tonight a special guest, Jorge Arteiro. How are you?
Hello, Marcel. Hello, everyone. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, Halloween will be exciting.
Yeah, and tonight we have like a great topic, like really hot, I would say. Yeah, everyone like is interested, like what exactly are going to present to us. I don't know if you can just give some highlights in, before like you jump to show us the examples.
Yeah, we're going to do like an overview on what's happening on the WebAssembly and what you call WASM space and Kubernetes together. I'm going to run how can we run applications on Azure Kubernetes Service, WASM applications on Azure Kubernetes Service, and
That's
discuss a little bit the difference between a container and a WASM and how they can work together.
no, that's really cool. Yeah, really keen to see like that in learn with you on this presentation. And before like we jump to the session, uh, I'd like just to, if it's the first time you're joining the session, I'd like to present the Coding Night user group. So we are open, we're a community of developers, and we love coding. We follow best practices, and well, in software development languages and technologies, we mainly focus on Microsoft stack, and the intent of the user group is to enable developers with practical knowledge so you can launch your career depending on where you are in your career level from a junior to lead devs. So you're definitely going to learn with this user group. We're also parts of .NET Foundation, open source entity that manages multiple .NET open source projects in Azure. If you could just talk a little bit, Jorge, about it.
Yeah, I will. I will. Can I share my screen?
Oh yeah, just take over.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, there you go. That's me.
Cool.
And yeah, it just said WASM. WASM is like abbreviation for WebAssembly on Kubernetes, on Azure Kubernetes Service. And like I said, Jorge Arteiro, I'm a cloud developer advocate on Microsoft, and I work specifically on cloud native and containers. And now WebAssembly, I think, is part of that ecosystem of cloud native as well. And yeah, Azure is that community. We have a YouTube channel, we have a Twitter account, we have a blog as well, azure.com. We have a LinkedIn account and some like Telegram groups where the community get together. And the main idea is to create content using, could be blogs, could be videos. And now we have like 115 videos in Portuguese and English, more in English than in Portuguese, and other languages are welcome as well if you want to record in your language. And the idea is also to help you to create that content. How to come here and speak for the camera or go for a meetup, go for a conference and present your content. What are you doing with technology? And that community is exactly for that.
Cool.
Yeah. Can I jump there straight on the subject or?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think like whoever is watching like this session is definitely very interested in learning more about what the technology stack can do for us.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. I think because coding night, the name say coding, there's a lot of coders here. I'm not going to show much code, but I'm going to try to explain like an overview how the thing works.
Hmm.
Um, the first thing will be local development. Like for containers and for Kubernetes, we normally use those things. We use Rancher desktop or Docker desktop, and we use some kind of Kubernetes distribution Could be K3s, K3d, microK8s, or even kind as well. Those are options where you can do like local development with Kubernetes with containers. And funny now that Docker just announced, and I'm going to show later here, how Docker Desktop now can run WebAssembly as well. Then Wasm is part now of Docker Desktop, and you're going to be able to run in parallel. I can even probably start showing from my browser. That's what Docker announced. And you're going to be able to run something like that. I think just
Yeah.
have Docker engine on top. Container D. Docker engine is moving everything now to like Docker desktop to use the container D. That's a
Hmm.
high level library to talk with containers. And now container D will be able to run not only containers but also WebAssembly like in this way here. Sounds good?
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's how container D works. They have those shims, and they have the container runtimes. For Linux is run C. Uh, for WASM, there are more than one. Docker desktops using WASM Edge,
Edge.
and what they do, they load like the WASM module from the like a container registry.
Mhm.
How container works. They like even containers here, they have to load the image of the container from the container registry, and then the runtime runs that. And
Yeah.
container D is the one that knows how to load containers and all these things. Load the image to the
Hmm.
nodes that's going to
Yeah.
run the container. And now that's the same thing is going to happen here. And if before someone asks, before we used to do something like that, the first version of WebAssembly on AKS, we used to use this project called Crustlet. That was done
Hmm.
by Microsoft as well. What's the difference between Crustlet and now we're running with Container D? Before was Crustlet was emulating, was like an emulation of like a node, like a physical node on the Kubernetes cluster,
Hmm.
and that's complete different idea from what you see here. We're now using Container D for to run, the was module, and before was kind of we are emulating like a fake nodes on the cluster to run
All
that.
right. Yeah.
Means that we are removing support to Crustlet, and by the way, this was experimental at the time. We are removing support to that. We're moving now to Container D with those WASM shims. Okay, and those runtimes can change. Like for example, in Windows is not run C. Windows is another runtime, and there are more than one time. There is like WASM time that runs
Hmm.
as well, and I think we are using WASM time on AKS. But in Docker, you're going to be able now to run like a Docker Compose file, and that's where what Docker is showing on this video that they just presented. I recommend you to watch this. It was released just like 2 days ago. That's from
Oh, cool.
KubeCon North America last week in Detroit,
Yeah.
where they announced this. And as you can see, like a Docker Compose file that you can define like a platform was 32,
Hmm.
where that specific server will be a WASM, and the others could be like containers. Then you
Yeah.
have the mix between containers and WASM running at the same time. And
Yeah.
yep, the server can see the runtime class was match, and that's what they announced. And also, let me show you here.
Yeah.
There is a Docker WASM beta version that you can download for all the platforms
Hmm.
and install. There are some warnings here because if you have Docker already running, That's
Yeah.
why I haven't installed on my machine yet. Sorry, I could show you, but I don't. I haven't installed that yet. I need like a separate machine to install.
Oh yeah.
They don't recommend to install in parallel at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if even if you follow from here or from from the video that they promoted with this repository, that's from the wasn't the North American. Exactly,
Cool.
that's the repository for this video here.
Cool.
And if you want to play with that, I recommend is a good one. Now we have like a local development where we can like a Docker desktop where you can play with containers and wasm
Yeah, I think a bridging that gap, right? Because you could do it, but you didn't have like a way of doing it. Having that like
Correct.
enabled now, wow, it's gonna be enable like more like developers to have flexibility to create containers, work with WASM. Yeah, that's really good news.
Yeah, the same as I was showing on the video, you can see the same runtime option that they show how to run the Docker Compose file. You're
Hmm.
setting the runtime as a WASM edge,
Yeah.
and you need that version here where they're going to install. Um, I think I think they say something here, or even on the announcement. Yep, there you go. They're using WASM Edge,
Hmm.
and also they're using the new container D on Docker Desktop. Why? Because they need the container image, the WASM module, is going to be stored on the Azure, on the container registry as a OCI compatible artifact. It's
Yeah.
kind of loading like a DLL, like WASM like a module where you can run that. Yeah. And the way that they organize these things is like that. They separate what's the runtime, and
Hmm.
there is something people talk a lot is this thing called WASI.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see. WASI is the let's say the API, the interface to enable WebAssembly to talk with resource on the machine, for example, and like have a standard for that. Because
Hmm.
WebAssembly itself that we know is the one that was born on .NET, on this one here, Blazor.
Yeah. With Blazor. Yeah.
That was the first time we started talking about WebAssembly more on the .NET and coding space. And what's the difference? A lot of people ask me, what's the difference between that and and this thing here from Doc? What's the difference between those things?
Hmm.
And the main thing is the WebAssembly that runs on the browser is like a sandbox. And that was the whole idea of WebAssembly, is to have like a sandbox where it could run, like any language could compile to that kind of a binary or text language where it could run inside those sandbox. And on Blazor, there is a, I forgot the name, but there is a runtime that runs on the browser. That's why the first run takes a while because you have to download the runtime to
Correct. Yeah.
run like the Blazor. And they've been working a lot on improving the performance of these. And now on .NET 7, we also moving to run like just run .NET as WebAssembly anywhere. I don't think we are quite there yet. Maybe next session we can come back here and talk about this. Um, but at the moment, that's the difference. We have Blazor server, that
Hmm.
there is no WebAssembly. Everything runs on the server side.
Correct. Yeah.
We have Blazor server or WebAssembly, and means that Blazor WebAssembly, the things are running inside the browser on that sandbox.
Yeah.
And there is some way to talk with the JavaScript interop there. You can manage and talk with JavaScript, but you don't have access to the machine where the browser is running there.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, you have to do through JavaScript or anything that JavaScript can do it. um, correct? And then that we have that isolation.
Sure.
And now .NET 7, that's going to be released next week or in like in 8 or 10
Yeah.
days.
November 7th or 8th,
Yeah,
right?
we kind of have some improvements on the WebAssembly to run, or maybe .NET 8 probably going to be even better, but .NET 7 we already have some things. Just keep watching everything that's happening on .NET Conf,
Yeah.
and
Well,
you're
for
going to
sure.
see
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. But as you can see, people working, the companies working with us WebAssembly, they are also bringing running .NET in WebAssembly. Fairmont is a company that was founded by ex Microsoft employees, former Microsoft employees. They started many of those projects that you know here, like Crestlet, and many of the projects from Microsoft. They started, and now some of them left and founded this company. And we're working close with them. We are collaborating, still collaborating there, and they have some guidance for um, running WebAssembly on the platform that they have at the moment. And you probably can use exactly the same approach. Here, see was SDK, .NET 7 Preview 2. Um, if you follow this guidance, you can also run.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a
Yeah.
package
That's
called
cool.
was SDK,
Yeah.
and that's one way to do it. And you can use one of the kind of runtimes that they have for this platform called Spin. And we're going to see that AKS is using Spin as well. It's available on AKS. Means that you can get these and you probably can run on AKS. I'm not sure if
Hmm.
it's clear here how to run on AKS, but it's a good example how to run these with .NET 7. Still
Hmm.
like kind of an experimental
Yeah.
package on .NET 7, and you have to follow these because that's going to grow every single day from now
Yeah. But
on.
it's good to see like the investments are going like onto exploring like web assemblies, right? I think like when it's ready on .NET 7, perhaps 8, then yeah, other possibilities are gonna open, right? And even like faster performance solutions are going to be enabled.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole goal here to show that's from Microsoft, the container was machines. Um, there's a lot of discussion about the container D was machine. And that repository is quite nice. You can even run that locally in a K3D cluster. And they're using also using Spin from Fairmont to create application, like to build like a container image as well from that, like artifact that you can run. And we're using Spiderlight. That's another project, and this one is from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of a platform. I can go in more details later if you guys want, but I recommend you to follow this repository to understand a little bit more. And I have something like that, exactly like this example here to run.
Hmm.
I have this example running on my AKS cluster. And this kind of the scenario for WebAssembly at the moment. We we have to understand that now everything is moving to container D, and that's just like an implementation detail. For the developer itself, doesn't really matter that runtime.
Hmm.
Those runtimes are going to be able to run to get your module and run that. I think that's the message that you like. WasMag is the one that Docker is using, and there are documentation here explaining how that works. Because the whole thing of WebAssembly is like how they, and that WasMag shows some numbers is quite nice. They show that compare with Linux containers, that could
Yeah.
be a hundred times faster to
Wow.
start up.
Uh, for sure.
If
Yeah.
if containers is fast, it's like milliseconds. That could be microseconds will be like a millisecond or something. It's very fast.
Yeah.
And these bring the names already say edge computing. And that's the first thing I say. What's the difference between
Mm,
containers and WebAssembly? Is the speed and the weight of those startup time. And
hmm.
they even say that's 20% faster in runtime as well.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, will say, look, my container is already booting like in milliseconds. I'm fine. But for edge computing, make a lot of sense, the WebAssembly, and
Hmm.
because we need to be even lighter than we have in containers.
Correct. Yeah. But you see, you,
And
you see also like that. There's always like this push for performance in well, 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 as a I design like create solutions. I want like these applications to be like performatic, and if the platform allows me to do that, for sure, I'm gonna take like advantage of that. And wow, but by looking at that, wow, definitely keen for it. Right? I think like lots of companies are gonna take this. Well, maybe like doing like experiments, proof of concepts to see like compare like the results.
yeah,
And but as I mentioned, like on edge, right? So it needs to be lightweight apps. So that's sounds really promising. Yeah.
yeah, if you compare with containers and you think that you can run like Go in just like a few megabytes, um, it's fine. But
Hmm.
some other applications that you have all the dependency on Linux that you have to load all the package,
Yeah.
all the dependency to run like a container, that is going to take a little faster. And Wasm is not like a container; is a sandbox, but it's a different kind of sandbox. And you are compiling for that. You kind of are compiling for like a binary thing. It's quite different from containers. Containers, you have like let's say a isolation there where you have a full Linux that you can run anything. Was
Yeah.
me just running your application. You understand? I think it's quite different. And what happened now with was modules is the way that you can load multiple modules and to become like part of a solution or like a
Correct.
contain kind of a container. But it's a different approach. And
Hmm.
I think both are going to exist. It's not going to be a
Yeah.
replacement for containers. The same way that VMs maybe is the only solution for other things,
Hmm.
but that change is not the same as VM to containers. It's like more like a new option to run. And it's nice that the container ecosystem now are integrated with that.
Hmm.
Make more sense than you start again because now you still have an orchestrator like Kubernetes that going
Correct.
to manage the orchestration of those
Hmm.
the same way that we used to do like this.
Yeah.
In Kubernetes, the same way. I even have a slide that I can show that. Show here is, let me
Yeah. I
just,
see. I see applications working like in containers, WASM, like in
yeah,
communication, as I mentioned about those modules. So as microservices, for example, so we have like different services doing like specific tasks. That's going to be one more, right? And depending on performance, perhaps there'll be an option that to work with WASM. Yeah.
yeah, that's how like works in Kubernetes. The other one I was showing Docker. In Kubernetes, we have in each node of the cluster, we have one thing called kubelet. There's a piece of software that runs on the physical node. Like when AKS create like a node, they they install kubelet, okay, let's say a Linux node, and then container D is also running there on each node, and container D is creating those containers. But Kubernetes is talking with the kubelet. When I say run something on Kubernetes, like a deployment YAML file, the scheduler is going to send to the kubelet the definition to be like the deployment to run, and then the kubelet is going to ask container D to create that. If you look on the second image here at the bottom, you can see the container D client, the container service, the networking CNI, container network interface, where Kubernetes get like IP number
Yeah.
for the container, for the pod. There are other things, but in general, we have the CNI, we have the storage as well, and that's where container D schemes came in place. That's a way, for you to extend container D, and you have one for Run C, that's Linux. Now we have one for WASM.
Hmm.
And if you go a little bit inside the pod, you can see the container D schemes, and you have the containers running there.
Yeah.
And you have the same thing for WASM. Then Kubernetes is going to just work because it was organized with container D to be able to be extensible, and that's why we move on from Crustlet and we move to container D because it make more sense.
Yeah.
If you go back for AKS now, let's talk about AKS. That's a AKS cluster. I just update my slide deck. When you create a AKS cluster, Azure Kubernetes Service Cluster, you have this blue box on the left. That's just like a control plane. You don't pay for that. You don't manage that. We manage. Microsoft manage that. If you want an SLA, you can pay, but you don't pay for that. You just pay for the SLA, the service level agreement. Then you have to decide after creating the like AKS cluster, how many node pools. Node pools are those groups of VMs that you want to create.
Yeah.
On my example, we have like 8 VMs on each pool, but don't have to.
Hmm.
And imagine that after create a cluster, I have to create a pool. And you have to decide if you want a Linux, Windows, ARM, or WASM now. You have 4 different,
Yeah.
platforms. Okay. The WASM is also like a Linux. Okay, I should put it WASM and Linux. Um, Means that I can run Linux and WASM on the same node pool. Then this WASM is Linux WASM.
Hmm.
And we also have one thing called Azure Container Instance, where you use something similar to
Yeah.
that cluster, virtual kubelet, to
Hmm.
run things outside the cluster as a serverless container.
Yeah.
And that's a way that we integrate Azure Kubernetes Service with the serverless offer from Microsoft called Azure Container Instance. Then we
Okay.
have all those options.
Yeah.
And I have a cluster where I have Linux, ARM, and WASM, 3 different node pools. I'm going to show you.
Hmm.
And there's one thing I want to show more after that is this thing. Okay, that left side is the control plane, right side are the clusters, the nodes where you have the runtimes, the kubelet talking and create the containers, and we have all the disks and network integration as well. And let's go for the and let's see. I have this slide deck here. This one that I'm showing. I have this slide since like 2016 or 17.
Hmm.
The same slide that I have. And you see,
Yep.
I was showing that for 5 years ago, and exactly the same thing. Container D, run C,
Correct.
but it's all on top of Linux kernel. And it's a kind of different sandbox, a container. They use like Linux kernel features to do the sandbox. That's the main difference from like a container to a WASM
Hmm.
anything. But let me show what I have here. I have a AKS cluster or AKS Blazor because I was doing Blazor
All right.
tests, deploying things on Blazor there. As you see, version 123.8.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have now version 125 already, 24 and 25. And I have 4 different node pools. I have one thing called system node pool. Is like a mandatory node pool that you need to run all the Kubernetes components. That's not your application.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the mandatory components that you have to run.
Yeah.
And you have to have at least like one node pool with at least 1 or 2 or 3 VMs to run those components.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have what I call user node pools. Then I create like 3 of them. I create one ARM pool where that's scaled to 0 at the moment. It says 0 of 3.
Yeah.
But I set this node pool, Marcel, to not delete the VMs. That's why if you come here for the nodes, you see that the VMs are there.
Mm-hmm.
They are just deallocated. Why I need that? Because I want a faster warm up when I
Yeah.
need to scale up. Then that's one option that I did. The other option is I create that was me called WASI service interface where I'm using ARM node pools. Look at this. Now I can use Worm on ARM. It's still not
Mm-hmm.
like we still, trying to improve the performance. It's still failing. We try to fix some things, but it's already working. Many people don't know. I'm telling you now that works,
Yeah.
but still not 100% still in preview, but I just create a WASI warm pool. I'm running WASI on ARM VMs. And I
Uh-huh.
also have a WASI running on normal VMs or Linux VMs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I did deploy things on that already. The difference I have one node of each running, and then can go on my workloads. I think I deploy on the default. Yeah, I deployed that application was live, and that application coming from the Microsoft documentation. That's the
Yeah.
one that we recommend for you to create. If you want to create if you have a AKS cluster or you don't have it, you can create a new one. But you want to deploy a node pool to run your WebAssembly now. Today is in preview, is in public preview since last week. Um, you have to register that extension, then you like the new feature that's in preview, was node pool preview. And then there are still some limitations, but they let you know clear that you can run containers on was in
Awesome.
node.
Yeah.
Sounds good? Then you can have
That's
both
cool.
running at the same time. What I did, I create this node pool on my existing cluster, and I also follow the example and I deploy this application. That's just like a
Mm-hmm.
hello world that they show here.
Yeah.
And they using the runtime class called wasm time is light v1. Means that I'm not using wasm edge like Docker desktop. I'm using wasm time. That's another runtime. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in Kubernetes, you can have this runtime class where you can define like a node selector that supports this wasm time. And we're using two flavors is light and spin from Fairmont. And what I did, I just run that. I just created and I executed. I did a
Mm-hmm.
apply, and I have this application. There's a service. If you look, there's a service exposing like a load balancer,
Yeah.
and this load balancer is exactly that wasn't slide here. And if you
With
open
this IP. Yeah.
and they ask you to do like a hello, there you go, and then you have reload printed. That's just to show that runs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the same one there. Okay, how that works? Let me show you on my There we go. Yeah, that's the container image.
The image, yeah.
And that's where ESP and those new things, those frameworks to create WebAssembly, they help. They help you to build this image and push to like a container hash as well.
Yeah.
Um, I have this example. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're going to run these on Linux or Arm64, it'll be the same because the sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nice of WebAssembly can run anywhere. And
Yeah.
what I did, this one I did one replica, but let me try. I think it was on this one. Let me try to run more than one replica. Let's say three. Let me bring back my. Okay, hang on. That's my that's my console. That's using Windows Subsystem for Linux, WSL.
Mm-hmm.
Let me run again the same file that I was just
All right.
showing.
Yeah.
Just increase
Saved.
the name of replicas. That's already running there. But I want to now three copies. I want to scale that up, scaling out.
Yeah.
Hopefully my login is still there. Yep. You can see that the configuration for deployment was changed, configured.
Mm-hmm.
And then going back on the browser, workloads on the default. Yep, these are right
You have
there.
three. Yeah, that's so
Was
just happened. Yeah.
oh my gosh, let me try to do like maybe 10. I want to see how fast is that. Like,
Yeah.
let's see how fast is that. Yes. Let's run again. Now with 10 cops.
Yeah.
Let's do refresh.
It's
4,
there. Getting there.
5.
Five.
Then
Yeah, that's there. Yeah.
it's very fast.
Yeah.
And even if you go on the pods, they're going to be running. There you go.
Mm-hmm. All of them.
See all the on the same second pretty much. They all created on the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's probably the difference. I don't know if you can run 20, but say 30.
It could be used like for processes where you want to launch perhaps well
Okay,
something
now
as a startup.
there you go. You
Wow.
see all then be created.
Mm-hmm. They are. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
if it's pending because there's no space, but let's have a look. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to force. What I'm forcing here, I'm forcing now the scaling of the cluster. Means that I cannot run more instances on the first node because I have one node. And if I go node pool, I should have this WASI being scaled up. I mean, scale out to be another node being created.
Another node.
Let's have a look if that's going to happen or not. But there are two types of scaling. One is scaling the application. Another thing is
Mm-hmm.
scaling the node.
The
When you
node.
do
Yeah.
a deployment and you're asking that specific CPU in memory, and you have just one node, and you took all the space CPU in memory available, the class is going to scale that pool. And
Yeah.
the way they do is based on this outscaling. It says enable here.
Mm-hmm.
I set my outscaling to be 1 to 3 nodes.
Yeah.
and that's what's probably happening right now. Let's have a look. I haven't tested out scaling, to be honest. This was me yet, but
Or maybe the
we can,
polls are
yeah.
just there.
Where's that running? Let's have a look. Which one they running? For pods. They
23.
all running on ARM node pool.
Yeah.
Not namespace for. Now they running on the was the node pool. Yeah, they running on the was node pool. Means that the was node pool has to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did also is you can have what I also include a node selector for Arm64.
Mm-hmm.
When I create this node pool, what I did, I set like a taint, say that this pool can only run Arm64, and for me to means that everything that's running at the moment is not running is running on the was pool,
Mm-hmm.
and this was pool is the one that has to scale. Has to be this one. Maybe out scaling still not there,
Yeah.
but let me do the same deployment, but now deploying on the ARM. Let's see, 3 cops on the ARM,
Mm-hmm.
and then will be the same. There you go. It's a new deployment. Going on workloads. I have one node there running because I didn't set to scale to zero. You can scale to zero. There's nothing running. There you go. The
Yeah.
new one. Let's go. Yep, those three at the end.
Yes.
I'm not sure if the
Mm-hmm.
node selector maybe didn't work well. Let me check my node selector Linux. Yeah, there's no node.
Those are the ones. Yeah.
There's no node allocated. Yeah, I haven't tested this one yet, but you got the idea. You let
Mm-hmm.
me remove that just to see if it works. There you go. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe the node, the taint's not there on the node.
Yeah.
But the way that it works exactly the same way. Oh, look, the other one,
30 ones. Yeah. They're there.
the Wadi was scale up as well. Means that's working. Yep, there you go. 2 nodes.
Two nodes. Yeah.
Means that the scale, all scale is working. That's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, there you go. 2 nodes of Wadi pool
Mm-hmm.
was all scaling is working then. And the nice, as you can see, yeah, all the 30 cops
Yeah. They came up.
are running there. Took just a while because of that. And now we probably can run even more than 30.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe those one takes, but I think the node selector that's not perfect on my new node pool that I created. But those are the options. The warm works as well. I just tested, but I deleted the test,
Hmm.
and you can run was in both. I think that's the demo I have. Um, if you don't know AKS enough to understand these, there are other videos where I explain
Hmm.
more AKS and how this works. And this no, new documentation explain how to create this node pool.
Yep.
Questions? I don't know if you have any questions or
No, I was just going to ask if you could just share like maybe a link on the chat, because then people can just come and copy and try directly from the chat. And yeah, I think I like this one. Definitely going to explore as well. Yeah,
what
everything
we
that's
do,
in
we
here on
can
the
put
video.
there. Let's send it to you. Is a
Yeah, let
nice
me
one.
just
There's
see that
new
one.
Docker preview as well.
Oh, cool.
From this one, you can get access, but let me give you a few links. We can put on the description of the video as well.
Hmm.
Let's make sure that's on the description. Give you the links. What more? The S slide that we just showing that the executable that's here as
Yeah.
well. Um, you're going to see that's more than just like a run. It's not a runtime. It's a framework
Hmm.
and where you can do things like similar with Deppa. By the way, Deppa now can run WebAssembly as well.
Oh,
If you go
that's
for
really cool.
Deppa.io, they I'm pretty sure they release docs. Mm, yes, search was me.
Hmm. Was middleware.
Um, there you go.
Oh, like I'm gonna ask, like right now we have this preview on AKS. Do you know anything about like Azure container apps? If like this sort of support is going to come, or I don't know if you have like any
Um,
updates on that.
I haven't had anything yet,
Hmm.
but yeah, I haven't seen anything was on container apps yet. But let's see if the
And let's see,
feature
right? So
probably.
it came up like on AKS preview. So soon should come like to container apps. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Look, those are still in preview. Then I think when that went to production, maybe you can
Yeah.
think about web container apps. What more? Let me see what I the edge as well. If I have a look to understand how Docker is using the edge,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, I'm
it's quite
sharing
a
like those
lot.
links on the on
Yeah,
chat. So it's all recorded, and people don't need to replay the video to see to see for the links. So those are
the
going
.NET
to be in the
WebAssembly as well. The .NET
yeah.
WebAssembly, the shim, where you can even try that in a local K3D cluster. That's how we use deploy. Other one is the video from KubeCon.
Oh yeah,
All the
that's also
Wasm
a good
Day videos are
resource.
there. You can follow
Yeah.
that channel and see the playlist there, or just the latest videos, and
Yeah.
try to follow the same this logo like Wasm Day, and you're going to find a lot of let me open here public visa for to explain. I always go for CNCF latest videos, and there you go. We have all the videos published from KubeCon last week,
That's cool. Good
and
resource.
yeah,
Yeah.
those in Papua are the Wasm Day. There
Yeah.
is a Azure Day that we did there. It's not here, but if I get the link from Microsoft later, I'll let you know where those Azure Day are.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things you can watch here. BPF is a big, subject at the moment.
Yeah.
Yep, and the depot one. Let me put the depot one as well. By the way, depot now is updated version 1.9 on AKS and container apps,
Hmm.
but I'm not sure if runs it can run on container apps or not. That's a good question. That's a
Yeah,
good question. I don't have an answer,
yeah.
but
Oh yeah, like I use more container apps, but in general, like what comes available on AKS takes some time, right, to come to container apps. But really see like the possibilities with WASM. If that comes to container apps, it would be also cool to explore.
yeah, I don't think there's anything there yet. But let's create a node pool.
Yeah,
That's the public preview from last year that using Crestlet. Don't look that anymore.
yeah,
um, yeah, that's .NET 6 Blazor wasn't not the same. There is one thing I found here, someone discussing the .NET 7 like roadmap, and I
hmm,
recommend you to follow next week to see everything that's coming on WebAssembly for .NET 7
yeah.
on the .NET Conf, where .NET 7 will be released, and I think it'll be the main thing. You see that one done in Runtime Lab on native was um, Blazor hybrid.
Hmm.
Yeah, but people are asking now for us to do the like fully like .NET be a full WebAssembly language. It is, but
Yeah,
.NET 7 I think that done the improvements, and that show I'm already trying that as well. I haven't
that's
played
cool.
myself yet much, but
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's what I have to show today. It's a lot of information.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
get overwhelmed. Uh,
I would say like that's really good like resource in coming from you, like really hot uh, preview, so people can just try, explore, and think about like the possibilities, right? Because at some stage this is gonna go GA, so there should be like some more like use cases for where or when to use WASM right, on AKS. But I see like because of the speed, would be some sort of startup processes that needs to trigger maybe other processes. Well, I see it as an option, right? But the, seeing like use case for that, that would be like great as well.
yeah, sure thing. And
Cool.
yeah, pretty much follow the .NET Conf. Give a go on those links. Try to do it yourself. Just create a cast class and create a WASM and play with that. You need your container image for your application. You have to build that. And soon we're going to have more information. You can even update the links later on the video. And don't
Yeah.
forget to follow the Azure Twitter, also the Azure YouTube channel. Do a subscribe and a notification as well. Set notifications that you're going to get the new videos. I'll be recording some Microsoft people next week or this week, and probably maybe publish next week. And yeah, I hope you can follow us.
Cool for sure. I know like people are gonna be very interested. I always like check like those videos, and they're always like good content. And by checking like and keeping up to date on cloud native, definitely recommend checking Azure Tar. Yeah. And I
And
would
there is
like to.
one WebAssembly video there, Marcel. There is one that we did a few months ago, or last year, or beginning of the year, I think,
Hmm.
and with someone from my team that Steven Rasky,
Hmm.
that used to be from the Azure DevOps team or advocate team,
Yeah.
and we recorded about this on the early days last year, and now we have to maybe I'm going to invite him back to show that again. But if you watch this video, he's explaining WebAssembly as well, and we have already WebAssembly videos there. That's nice.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
George,
Thanks everyone.
for making time and coming like to talk to us. And yeah, let's see what comes next. Yeah, but you always have like good content. And yeah, hope like in the near future you just come like with more hot news. And you're definitely welcome to come back.
Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. And just like to bring to the user group, we have a session. Next session is happening at Microsoft Auckland. So it's gonna be a hybrid session, and in there we're gonna talk about um, Azure durable functions, right? So we're gonna have two parts. Part one, we're gonna do a hybrid. In part two, we're gonna do like a online session. But I invite you, if you are in Auckland, just to come, say hi, and yeah, for sure, you're gonna learn like lots. And for this session, that's it. Thank you, and see you next.